Hi friends, welcome back to my channel Swapnil's Analysis, and I am Swapnil. Today we are going to discuss one of my favorite poet, Emily Dickinson, and her very popular poem, I Heard a Fly Buzz When I Died. So when we study Emily Dickinson, the theme of death always linger somewhere in the back of our mind, and therefore we always think or read the poem of Emily Dickinson from the point of view of a death or an obsession or a fascination towards death. So here Emily has described an incident about a deceased person. Means here the speaker, she is dead and she is communicating to us after the death, and she is not communicating about all her life. She is not informing us about her life journey, but only the last couple of seconds or last couple of minutes before her death that has been described here in this poem. So the speaker in this poem is already dead, and what the very peculiar incident happened to her before her death, that a fly interjected or entered or trespassed into her room, and she died before, means she was staring at that fly. At that time she died. So therefore it was a kind of a peculiar thing for the speaker, because probably she would have wanted to spend her miss to die while staring at her beloved relatives who had gathered around her bedside. So it seems that she had been sick, and all her relatives had got the idea that now the speaker is going to die very sooner than later. So here the speaker is informing us about the last couple of minutes before her death, that all her relatives had gathered around her bed. There was a complete silence in the room, a complete dead silence, and suddenly a fly entered into the room and disturbed that silence. So the poem begins thus: I heard a fly buzz when I died. The stillness in the room was like the stillness in the air between the heaves of storm. What here she is describing, that there was a complete dead silence in the room, and the silence, that silence she has compared before the silence of the storm before the storm arrives. That kind of a silence was there. Here storm is not a kind of a storm that would destroy the surroundings. Here the storm means the outburst of the cry, means all the gathered people, all her beloved relatives and acquaintances, they were just waiting for her death, and therefore they were holding their cry, they were holding their breath. In a way they were reserving their cry, their tears, their outburst for the moment when she would actually die, and she was noticing everything. And therefore in the second stanza she says that the eyes beside had wrung them dry, and breaths were gathering firm for the last onset, means last journey. Here she says that they were crying, they were sad, and one could notice their sadness through their rheumy eyes, means tears were not flowing down from their cheek, but their eyes were rheumy, their eyes were watery, and they were just waiting for her last breath. and that has been described here for the last onset. Onset means journey. When the king be witnessed in the room, means the man who is assigned to take away my soul, when he would enter and when he would finally take away my soul, then they were just waiting for my death. And that kind of a silence was there in the room, because in every culture, every society, there is a tradition. It is believed that the soul is taken away. Means here that a king would come in his chariot and he would take away her soul towards the heaven. And for instance, in the Hindu religion, it is believed that the Yam, he arrives and takes away the soul of the deceased person. So there are so many things, mythical stories are attached, and which differs from culture to culture and religion to religion. So here she says, when the king he would arrive and he would take away my soul, and all were, including the speaker, they all were waiting for the death of the speaker. Therefore everyone who was present in that room was just waiting for the speaker's death. Therefore they all were holding themselves, they all were holding their breath, they were all holding their cries. Therefore they even had held their tears. Their eyes were all dry, but tears were not flowing down. But one could see that all these people, they were genuinely sad. So here then what she says, that she informs that what duty she had performed before the death. Now what she says, that I willed my keepsakes, signed away what portion of me I could make assignable. And here she says that whatever portion, whatever belongings which I had distributed equally all those my belongings to my relatives. Whatever I had, and I have distributed within my capacity. And as she was thinking, as she was gazing towards all her beloved relatives, then there interposed a fly. So why fly is so necessary here? Why fly has been emphasized in this poem? Because fly here has committed a sin, because she has disturbed the silence that was there. Even wind had stopped blowing. There was a complete silence, and everyone was just waiting for the speaker to die. And therefore when fly entered into the room, that buzzing sound of a fly was a kind of a deafening for the speaker, and therefore the speaker gazed towards fly, and she was just gazing, looking at that fly, and at the moment she died. Why she is displeased, why she is unhappy or sad? Because she wanted to die by beholding at her beloved relatives, but rather she died while she was gazing towards a fly. So fly entered into the room without the permission of the speaker. She disturbed the atmosphere. So she has committed a sin, not crime. She has committed a sin, and therefore this fly is so important. She distracted, and therefore the speaker here is completely displeased by this action of the fly, and therefore the fly is described in a very half manner way. So how this fly was, with blue uncertain stumbling buzz between the light and me. Light here is kind of heaven, and me means the speaker. So the fly was of blue color, and she was flying stumblingly, unevenly, up and down, fluctuation. And thus while she was gazing towards that fly, she just died. That the only thing she remembers before her death, not the face of her beloved relatives, not any one of them. She just remembered that fly. And therefore then the windows failed, and I could not see to see. And thus while I was beholding at the fly, I died. And here speaker feels that she wanted to spend more time with her relatives. She wanted to die while beholding at her relatives, but rather she died while beholding at the fly. Therefore, this poem, this fly, has committed a sin according to the speaker. So, the poem, the speaker who is already died, and then he is just narrating or telling a story about couple of moments before her death. And one interesting fact about Sylvia Plath, Emily Dickinson, is that Emily wanted to publish her poems. Means these poems are so beautiful. She wanted to publish her poems, but because her father, he was against of her poem to be becoming public. So once she had even requested her brother that you just publish my name under your name. I just want you to publish my poems using your name. I just want to see the reactions of the critics, reaction of the people, how they receive my writing. But that too his brother refuted. So imagine, and her father, he had a very deep influence on her. Therefore, after his death, she became so lonely, and that kind of a loneliness is reflected through her poems, throughout her poems. All her poems, there lingers an obsession towards death, an attraction towards death, a melancholy, a sadness, and as if we get to know that as if she was leading a very unhappy life. Loneliness is there. Here also there is a loneliness. See here, what has happened? She doesn't remember any of the beautiful moment of her life. She just remembers here that how that fly entered into or break the silence or disturb the silence of the room, and how that was a kind of a scene. And therefore she doesn't remember any of her relative, she doesn't remember anyone from her life. She just remembers this fly who has no relationship with the speaker who is died. So what do you think about the speaker? Do comment in the comment section, and if you have liked my presentation, please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.